Dear listeners, there's a moment many families know well, that the moment when everyday routines suddenly feel impossibly complex, when a simple trip to the grocery store requires strategy and patience you did not know you had. So today we thought we will talk about what it means to support a child with autism, not just as a parent carrying the weight alone, but as a family that is finding its way together. So, hey, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host, Avik, and this is the podcast is all about making mental health practical, accessible, and real. And we talk about the things that matter in everyday life, the struggles that don't always have easy answers, and the small shifts that can change everything. So, joining me today is a very lovely guest. Please welcome Paul Voss. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really excited to be here today.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Paul. And um, so I'll quickly love to ask you something uh, like when families first learn their child as autistic, and there are often assumptions or misunderstandings that make the journey harder than it needs to be. So, what do you think? I mean, what's the one belief or expectations you think gets in the way early on? So, what do you think?
Um, that's a really good question. I would say you have to learn a lot, and I think when you first if you're not dealing with a child who's autistic, you really don't have a reason to learn a lot about the subject. But I think one thing is the understanding that you soon get that no two cases of autism are the same.
Yeah,
Um, And I think that is eye-opening as a parent. You learn that pretty quickly, and, yeah, as an offset of that, what works for one family, may not work for another family as far as treatment goes.
understood, understood. Yeah. And like, what do you think? I mean, how do the families usually realize that belief is not serving them, but uh, what helps them move past it?
It's another really good question because I think it depends, kinda where you are in your journey, and, in my story, there were things that happened long before my daughter was diagnosed that kinda got us to where we needed to be when we started the autism journey. For me and my family, we had believed, by that point that, um, Western medicine isn't the right thing for everyone. So, we kind of got past that belief, before we had the autism diagnosis. Um, so I do think it really kinda depends on other circumstances leading up to it.
Yeah,
But, again, it could be very different for everyone, but for us, we had other people we care about and love where, Western medicine had failed them, and afterwards, we found out that there were, holistic approaches and, in some cases, like with my mom, she was schizophrenic. It was too late to make a change there, but in other cases, like with my oldest son, we were able to make changes, holistic health changes, and actually see benefits when Western medicine had failed. So that was really, I think for us, what changed our mindset. And I think, you know, in autism specifically, just living through it day to day, you definitely grow as a person and evolve over time on your thoughts about it, your thoughts for treatment, and really what's best for your child.
understood, understood. Yeah. It's interesting, like how much pressure we put on ourselves to have all the answers right away. Um, and sometimes the most helpful thing is giving ourselves the permission not know yet and learn as you go, right? So, uh,
Yes.
exactly. And so, beyond the diagnostic itself, what do you think are some of the deeper kind of reasons that families struggle when a child is autistic?
I mean, one is financial. There Everything is expensive and most treatments are not covered by insurance, especially from my research, the ones that have better outcomes are not covered by insurance. ABA is a popular treatment, but if you research the success rate, if anyone is listening and has found a success rate somewhere, please reach out. I have not. And for me, I'm not going to put time and energy into something that has no successful outcomes documented. That to me just doesn't make sense. I'm all for keeping an open mind, but if a therapy's been around for years and no one has been healed from it, to me it's not worth my time. That's probably the biggest one, financial, but mental. You may especially in our case, our child wasn't born with autism, so it was something that developed later. So as a parent, you do feel like a failure because you failed your child, right? And this is me, this was my personal experience. I feel like, you failed to protect your child. You let something happen to your child that caused this, and you feel responsible for it, and you also feel responsible to help reverse it. Um, so that's really another one, and then just the exhaustion. Everything is exhausting, right? In our case, and this is common in especially level 3 autism, which my daughter has, sleep issues. As I mentioned before, like every kid with autism is different, but there are some similarities. So sleep issues are a common issue, and so that impacts everything, right? Like if you're not sleeping, shorter temper, easily frustrated, lashing out on things that you would never lash out on, not being able to just have a clear head and think straight. So those are some of the other big impacts that parents definitely deal with.
Mm, I agree. Yep. Um, and also, also share like how do those pressures show up differently for parents um, versus the siblings or extended family members.
Yeah, for parents, they're definitely the main protector of their child, and so they have to be hyper vigilant, and they really understand cause and effect of situations, right? So I'm taking my child to a party. There's going to be food there that she can't have. She's going to want it. What is that going to turn into? A meltdown? Like, am I going to have to go and then leave? I think your siblings probably understand it better, but your friends and other family members don't usually understand that. Which why would they, right? Like they're not living in it. They also don't understand just the preparation that goes into going anywhere, right? Like you go for something with a child that's not on the spectrum, you get their shoes on, get them in the car. For a child that's on the spectrum, there's a lot more planning and preparation that goes into it. And, just making sure you're aware of like what's going to be there. My daughter at one point loved running to water, and that's another thing that is common, right? So is there gonna be a body of water there? Am I gonna have to make sure she doesn't try to run into it? Like, there's just so many things that go on in your head that, that family members will never understand. I think with siblings, for my situation, it was really hard for them to understand, like, how she reacted towards them early on. So, one of the things she used to do a lot of was bite, and I know that, that really bothered them because they took it as she doesn't love me or she's mean. And they had to really understand that her biting was just a way of her expressing herself because she's non-speaking, nonverbal. Now the biting has gone away, luckily, but I know that part was really hard for the siblings.
Got it. Yep. Yep. And that makes so much sense. And it's not just about managing the behaviors of the appointments. And I believe it's all about rethinking like how the whole family system works and uh, that. that takes time and a lot of emotional energy. So yeah. And in a day-to-day life, where do you see the families hitting the most friction? Like, what are the moments or situations where things tend to break down or feel especially hard?
Yes, I would say a lot of it
Mm,
for us started with lack of sleep or just being tired. You can still get sleep, but you're just tired from everything that you need to do to care for your child through the day. So I think exhaustion plays a big part in breaking that down.
mhm,
The other part I would say is when autism impacts other members of the family in a negative way, right? They maybe wanted to do something or go somewhere and you can't, whether it's due to where it is, the environment it's going to be in, finances, etc. Those are really the two big drivers I see against, sleep or exhaustion, and then the inability to go do something that maybe you would have been able to do before. Whether again, it's tied to what's going to be there, uh, what's in the environment around it, or financially you just can't do it anymore. Those are really the two big ones.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. And when a family recognizes that pattern, uh, what's a kind of realistic first step that they can take to ease some of that friction? What do you think? Because I believe, because I think a lot of listeners will definitely be able to relate to that if you can share. Yeah.
Yeah, great question. And that was kind of one of the reasons I wrote my book, um, because there are positive things that come out of it. And I'll tell you, it's really hard to see positives when you're first dealing with a diagnosis. If you're not getting sleep or you just want to help your child, there's a lot of things we've done. And I didn't include this in the book on purpose, but there were a lot of things we've done that we didn't see any benefit from. So you're putting your child through all these supplements or tests. Maybe you're going the more traditional route. You're doing therapy, and you're not seeing the benefits. You're spending all this money, and all you want to do is help your child. That any parent wants to help their child. Um, then you see your child have meltdowns, get frustrated, so it just snowballs. So I think the big thing is just um, remembering that there will be good things that come out of it. It will get better. The other thing I really recommend is writing things down. So, write down the wins that you have and make a big deal about small wins, because if you're only looking for big wins, you're gonna just constantly be disappointed. So, with my 7 other kids, I didn't really care when they put their shoes on the first time, or could get undressed for a bath on their own. But
Mhm,
for my youngest, it's a big deal. Every step of progress we make is a big deal.
mhm,
And, writing those down is so important because then you can remind yourself, "Okay, we started here, but we're not there anymore." We've made progress in sleep. We've made progress in her walking on her own. Like, there's so many things that we made progress in, and some of those are big, right? So sleep is a big one, but, if I only look for those big milestones, I'm just gonna live in a constant day-to-day life of, looking for that big thing and then being disappointed when it doesn't come in the timeline that I've set or, that I wanna see.
mhm. Quite interesting. And like I said, the listeners will definitely be able to relate to that. And it's not about fixing everything at once, but it's all about noticing where the stress concentrates and making one small adjustment that creates a little more breathing room. So that's very interesting. And uh, when a family is trying to show up better for their autistic child, what do you think? I mean, what's an approach or maybe the mindset shift you would recommend?
Yeah, I would say,
Mm,
remember as a parent, you know what's best for your child,
mm,
and no one's coming to save your child except you. Doctors, specialists, like they're not going to save your child. They might help them, but you need to find people you trust and really work with them. You need to keep an open mind because there's a lot of things that I thought I would never do, um, or I thought sounded ridiculous when I first, started hearing about them. And now they've been some of the greatest benefits we've ever had on our child by implementing it. One of the things that I think everybody should take serious is their personal health because, events like autism or diagnosis may cause you to get more serious about health, and
Mm,
then you're catching up. Like, the best time to take your health serious is when you don't need to worry about your health because it's like, and you go down, you start, and there's so much, it can be overwhelming. Um, so just start small. And one of the things that we did that really benefited us, to me, it's one of the most important things is like whatever we're doing for our daughter, we try to incorporate into our life too. Um, so, like sauna, we got her a sauna because of the benefits of doing a daily sauna, but my wife and I use that every day on our own. Grounding is another one. I ground all day. Initially, that was just something for her. Diet changes we did, to support my daughter, but we implemented as a family and have had tremendous impacts on the health of everyone and all of my other kids. So I think whatever you're doing for your child where it makes sense, try to implement for yourself. And the other thing you'll learn is like there might be no benefit to you, but there might be a benefit for your child.
yeah.
There might be some things there's no benefit for your child, but it benefits you. And I think that can help a lot.
Mm, I agree. And so like even when families are doing well, there are setbacks, meltdowns, misunderstandings, moments when it feels like nothing is working. Um, so how do families stay grounded and keep going when those hard days hit? What do you say?
Yeah, I think remember what your focus and intention is, right? So in my case, it's I always remind myself, my daughter wasn't born this way. Something caused it. How do we help her? And so, there are days where it is super frustrating, right? Because you see something come back that you thought went away,
Mm,
or you're really excited about some step you're taking for your child that you think is gonna have a big impact, and then there's no impact. The other thing, going back to what I mentioned before, is, like, writing down the wins that you do have,
mm,
and then when you have those days, like, go back and read them and just remind yourself, keep reminding yourself, and make a big deal about small things or things that I don't even like saying small things because they're not for some children, like, they are a big deal. You know, make a big deal about every accomplishment that you see, because again, if you're not doing that, you're just going to be, what I defined as success early on was, her fully speaking and, able to do all basic life skills. If I had kept that as the milestone, like, I would still be constantly disappointed because 'cause I'm searching for that, and I would miss all of the progress that she's made over the last 4 years, and it's not a good way to live, right? Like,
yeah,
really celebrate everything.
I agree. I agree too. So what helps a family reconnect and recover after a particularly rough period, like especially when everyone is exhausted? What do you say?
So we really benefited from a couple of the health changes we've made, and I think it did bring us together closer as a family. Um, Grounding was one. Admittedly, I knew nothing about it prior to the autism diagnosis. My wife mentioned it to me. I thought the concept sounded a little out there at first, and maybe for the listeners, like, it decreases inflammation. It can help with sleep. It calms the nervous system, and, I ended up reading a book after she mentioned it, um, Earthing: The Most Important Health Discovery Ever, and after reading that, I thought, "Okay, um, I'm still not sure if this will work, but I definitely wanna try it,"
Mm,
and we ended up buying a grounding mat on Amazon, and, the first night it was on her bed, she slept 6 hours straight. And that was the first time we had a good night's sleep in months. So, implementing going back to what I mentioned before, like the things for your children that you're doing to help them, like implement them in your life. So like I ground, my kids ground, like go outside, spend time outside barefoot. really look at what you're putting into your body too, because, in the US, I don't even like calling it food because most of the stuff at grocery stores is not food, it's just chemicals,
Yeah.
and, changing the way you eat will help your mental health, and you'll feel better about yourself, and you won't feel as exhausted. So even if you're not getting sleep, there's other things you can do to, help you feel less exhausted. But, going back to, like, the health thing, like, focus on what you have control of and double down on that, right? You might not have control over if your kid is sleeping through the night, but you do have control of, you know, grounding, getting time outside, being cognizant of what you put into your body, and that will help you be not only a better person, but a better parent and able to better care for your child.
Mm, I agree. So, if you have to give one advice to the listeners today, what that be?
It's a tough one to answer because there's so many things that we've learned
Yeah.
on this journey. I would go back to you're the parent and you know what's best for your child and just research everything, make sure you're comfortable with it. You really need to be the advocate for your child and keep that open mind. Like your views should evolve over time and you should constantly be learning and growing. So and I know most parents are doing that already. They're, parents of autistic kids are, they're always looking, researching, reading, but just really keep an open mind and listen to, if it's a view that you're like, this person's an idiot, like still approach it with an open mind and listen to what they have to say because there's so much you can learn.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And if listeners wants to connect with you, how they can connect?
Yeah, the best way is I have a website, autismsucks.org. It has a link to a blog, my social media, and then it has a direct link to my book. The book, Autism Sucks Finding Hope in the Chaos, is also on Amazon as well. But website's really the best place to start. It has links to everything.
Lovely. Lovely. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links, details, everything into the show notes for easy reference. And I'll just say, dear listeners, that the work of supporting a child with autism is not about getting it perfect. It's all about showing up, learning together, and building a family culture where everyone's needs matter. So, with this, before we go, I want to leave you with this that um, supporting a family member with autism can feel like navigating without a map sometimes, and that's okay. So what matters is that you are paying attention, staying curious, and giving yourself and your family grace along the way. So take what resonates from today and try one small thing this week. And remember that you don't have to do this perfectly to do it well. Right. So thank you so much. And thank you, Paul, for sharing your insights today. It's really, really helpful. And with this, dear listeners, this is your host, Avik, and this is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.